Hey everybody, Alexander Diaz, Corvallis Acupuncture and Functional Medicine. So, I want to talk to you about despair in the modern age. I feel that despair is the root of many diseases. I feel that underpinning most human psyches and subconscious nowadays is a fear that we won't actually have an earth to live on, and that it's hopeless. And I feel like climate scientists and people who are wanting to get serious about environmental change don't carry the message that there is hope and that we can heal the earth, that we can create life for the subsequent 7 generations. More what you hear about is catastrophe, and that causes a lot of people to shut down and to not only get the sense that they can't help the environment, but also why live? If it's all going to hell, why not just enjoy sensory pleasures? And maybe why even stay living? So we unfortunately have a great amount of suicide going on right now, the highest ever in recorded history. We've also got a lot of hopelessness. And so I'm here to offer you a sense of hope because I believe that hope and faith in life and in our chance of not only surviving but thriving is the real underpinning of making behavioral change and healing ourselves and healing this planet. So Jeffrey Yuan, probably the greatest living master of Chinese medicine, he said that his best technique is to help people realize why they love living, why they want to live. What do they love about contributing? What do they love about giving? Who do they care about? And I feel like this is so important to do in our lives. And there's work to do beyond ourself. There's a greater entity to serve. It's the community, it's the family, it's the planet, it's the health of the rivers in our local area. Um, Now, we're facing the most intense historical danger to human life ever faced. In the 50s through now, we have faced the threat of nuclear annihilation, and that's real. But even if nobody presses the button on the nukes, if we destroy our environment, there won't be a life for anyone. And we're rapidly approaching that crux of climate change. So we're likely to experience some real horrible things in the years to come, as well as some miracles and wonders, and some amazing expressions of human compassion. And so, to really shift the wellness of the world, it seems like such an immense task, but the only way to do it is to start by healing individuals and by healing lineages so that traumas are no longer passed from generation to generation. And there's a link here to my trauma genesis video. Um, and so my hope is to get as many humans as possible returning to a really healthy lifestyle. And for me, that means largely outdoors. That means growing most of our own food. That means living within community so that we're providing the arts and crafts and goods and services to each other that we need quite locally, potentially without pay, but rather with trade and gift. This is what's going to really get us to the point where we can heal the earth, rather than this massive shift into mega cities and massive shift into commodifying labor. We want to shift people back to the land and towards the opposite of the commodification of labor, to labor as a gift. Now, it's tough to make that leap for most people. You can't just buy land in Oregon, for example. It's quite expensive. So my suggestion is, right now, to create financial abundance and financial freedom, and to do it in such a way that what you're doing is helping others, what you're doing is contributing, and at the same time it's nourishing you and your wellness, physically and also spiritually, so that you're having a right livelihood, as the Buddha said. And so my plan personally is to spend about the next 12 years really focused on financial freedom, So I'm about to be 37. I figure by the time I'm 49, I can achieve great financial abundance, pay off all my debts, and really get a large property, hopefully in Costa Rica, where the soil and the water are quite good, and host a community where we can grow our food, where we can have animals, where we can raise children, we can have a school, we can have a healing center, we can grow medicinal herbs and have businesses. This is a very common dream for a lot of people. Some of us have the family backing and the personal support, the education, etc., and the health and wellness that we can actually make this happen. Others who don't have the financial abundance have the work and they're ready to put in the work. So it's about uniting these two groups. We got a lot of senior citizens, a lot of elders, and they have great finances. Their houses are very valuable. They've saved and they worked during a time when savings were possible and when benefits were good. And so, you got a lot of young people who can't make it, who are suffering. So we can unite these two groups and get as much land as we can purchased and stewarded with community living on it. And to me, this is the real vital plan, part one, for healing the earth, is making humans into an entity that actually benefits the earth. Another thing I want to say is maintain hope and fight hard. There's been a lot of times in history that seemed hopeless. The Holocaust and World War II. My direct ancestors, my grandparents, were in Nazi death camps, carrying bodies to the oven. All their family was killed. And they maintained hope. And they kept that kernel of love in their heart. They kept that alive for 6 years. And they made it. And people were slaves. And they broke free of their bondage and they made it. There are so many examples in almost every living human being right now. There's in their lineage an example of somebody who faced what appeared to be a hopeless situation and they kept on fighting. So keep the faith. No matter what the climate scientists say, yes, ocean levels may rise, the earth may get hot, places may become deserts, people may be on the move, billions may die. It's okay. Stay focused, create the harmony and health for yourself, for your family, and for your community, and obtain the financial freedom to get back to the land and to steward as many species as you can and to sequester as many carbon as you can. I'll talk about that in a moment. So we've got to be fit. We've got to be physically fit. We've got to be psychologically fit. And that's really why I got into the practice of medicine, is because I realized that the world is really messed up. Politics and economy, it's total injustice. It's madness. We're living in a time of madness. And the memes of what wealth and status and power, it's all bullshit. And so as we heal ourselves and as we invest in our wellness, we break free of those cultural shackles, of those ideas that have us driven, and we get into a place of peace where we can start making a real contribution for the earth. And so there's a few more really hopeful elements of taking care of the planet. The one is large herds of animals. So there's some really exciting work being done with, I call them mega herds. And you get cattle in their thousands. And you don't let them graze one area for too long. You just keep them moving over large areas, just like the buffalo used to go all over America. And when you do this, instead of causing desertification, which most people think animal herding does, what you actually do is you renew the land. You put all sort of nice organic material, urine and dung, all sort of microorganisms. You put that back on the land and the land regenerates. So there's a huge amount of the planet that's really unfit for agriculture. And we may be using it for agriculture now, growing industrial crops, but we're pumping out the water, we're killing the soil. What we really want to do is stop eating that junk, that soy and that corn and that wheat, all that stuff, and start having these herds of animals going over these vast tracts. So I have the privilege, one of my best friends is helping lead this project, and there's quite a few other projects going on. You'll see his info in the link below. Um, Another one is national carbon sequestration. So if you look at the country of Bhutan, they're not only carbon zero, they're actually negative carbon because they have so much nature preserve and they take care of their land so well that so many plants are growing that it really just receives that carbon. So that's why I'm saying gain your financial freedom and own land, because then you can have lots and lots of trees and lots of plants. And this is a great way we can actually cause between the herds, healing the land and stopping the land from giving out all of its carbon. And by growing plants, we can actually sequester that carbon. And then another huge aspect is the alternative technologies. So we can be 100% electric cars that run off of 100% solar and wind in 10 years if we wanted to. The money's there. If we just stopped investing in these bullshit wars and all this corruption, we could have that by 2030. So realistically, we can make this change in our technology. But once again, through financial freedom, you don't have to depend on the government to do it or on these evil corporations to do it. You can yourself have that electric car. You can have those solar panels. And every little bit does matter. So for example, Oregon could become carbon negative within 10 years. We have enough hydropower and enough sun hitting eastern Oregon. You know, so it's absolutely imperative that we, lobby our congresspersons and everything else, but really just do it yourself. Gain financial freedom and abundance, gain health and wellness, and make this shift right now in the way that you can. And so, my blessing to everyone on this path, and thank you so much.